Here. Councilmember Stern.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Gusson.
Here.
Councilmember Pruitt.
Here.
Councilmember Katz. Here. Councilmember Schwartz.
Here.
Mayor Medellin. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by Resolution 269-2013, setting the 2014 meeting date, setting up copies of the record in the Jewish Standard, filing a copy in the Township Clerk's Office, and posting it on the municipal building bulletin board, and the mayor hereby directs that this statement be included in the
Good evening and welcome tonight. Just a couple of public announcements. Our next televised council meeting will take place on Tuesday, February 18th, with legal opening at 7 p.m. and public input to begin at 8 p.m. Township Council will be sponsoring a series of Affordable Care Act information seminars. The first is at 11 a.m. on Saturday, March 15th, and second at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, March 19th. The event will be held at the Cheryl Merrill Reporter Center in the Teaneck High School, 3rd floor, 100 Elizabeth Avenue. The seminar will be presented by Ms. Sheila Thorne of the National Partnership to End Health Disparities, Region 2 Health Equality Council. The municipal building, along with Public Works and Rota Center, will be closed on Wednesday, February 12th, in observance of Lincoln's birthday, and on Monday, February 17th, in observance of President's Day. Also, tonight we have with us our Township Manager and Township Attorneys, William Rupp, will be standing in tonight, as well as Brian Cronick will be joining us as well. And then also, just to explain my stature this evening, we don't have a chair that's appropriate for me to sit in. I had spinal surgery about a week ago, and I'm still recovering. So sitting on the back of this chair is about the least uncomfortable position I can find, so please excuse my odd-looking posture. As we begin tonight also, we're going to begin with, listed on our agenda as a public hearing on adoption of ordinances and Ordinance 44-2013, development regulations relating to signs and billboards. At our last public meeting, we had stated that we were going to hold off on taking any action at the council until such time as we had feedback from our other boards, particularly our statutory boards, planning board. The next planning board meeting is going to be February 13th. So we will not be discussing this tonight. We will not be adopting or voting to adopt this tonight. No such vote will take place until after such time as we've had input from our statutory boards. So I'm going to make an agenda motion, or make a motion now, that we table this indefinitely until such time as council has the ability to review input from our other boards.
I'd like to just make a comment. We received a very detailed email from Marie Warnicke, which I thank you for, giving us the historical perspective on the Greenbelt. I'd like to ask the questions that she asked in this email, if we could have that information available when this item is brought back before us, specifically how much neighboring towns are making for billboards that they have. The two most recent that I can think of are Hackensack, and I don't know if that's private property or public property, but if we could obtain that information so that we're able to discuss that fully along with the planning board recommendation.
I think there's certainly, this is not a time urgent matter in any way, so there's certainly time for us to gather all the information we want before such time as there should be a vote for adoption. So we have a second to table. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gusson?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes.
Okay. Next on our agenda will be good and welfare. This is where we have public input on our agenda tonight or any matter. Residents have 5 minutes. When you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record, and also if everyone could please silence their cell phones for respect for our speakers. First, good and welfare? Yes, ma'am.
My name is... My name is Amitria Hunt Young, 88 Oak Street,
Englewood, New Jersey, 07631. I have a property line, sewer line for Teaneck in the rear of my home. I have not received the sewer bill for 2013. I'm wondering where that bill is. I do not want a lien put against my home, nor any late charges. I have been calling here since August to try to find out where and when these bills are going to be sent out. I have been given the runaround each time. Your automation system is lousy. You give me from 1 to 10 somebody to talk to. Last Friday, I called here from 10:30 in the morning until 2:30 in the morning, and I could speak to no one. No one. I got in my car and came over here because the last I had heard, you were closed early on Thursdays or not at all on Fridays. But I saw a new sign put up to say you were open until 5:30 and all day Friday. So when I came over, I spoke with several people that didn't know anything or said they didn't know anything. In return, I said, my head is exploding. I must speak to someone. They got me Ms. Brown, the financial manager. So I went in her office. She said those bills would be sent out this week or by next week. I have not heard anything. There was never a written notice to say the bills would be late, why they were late. I was told that whoever did take care of them quit. You never got anybody to replace them, and you should have had somebody to pick up the slack. To me, Teaneck is going to the dogs. No phone calls, no written messages, no nothing. And I was told there's about 5 houses with this so-called grandfather law. And I want to know, when did ever is granddaddy going to die?
Ma'am, and just for your understanding and for anyone else who's new to our meetings, Good and Welfare, you have time to speak to us, and it's not a back and forth. So once your time is up or you're done, we'll respond. In this case, though, I'm going to recommend that as soon as you're done speaking, if you can get the manager's card and
I think I went through all of this stuff once before, and nobody ever got in touch with me.
I'm standing here now asking the manager to have a discussion with you and clarify this matter.
One more thing. On the side of my property, there is a creek, so-called creek. It's wetland in the back. Nothing can be built on this property. Nothing but trees have been taken down in the last 28 years. Nothing has ever been done there. It's deplorable. And I, as a taxpayer to Teaneck and Englewood, want something done. Hit the gavel on that.
Okay. Anyone else? Good and Welfare? Mr. Rose?
Good evening, Howard Rose, resident. I hope you're on the upward swing with your medical situation. Mine is just an informational request. I'm not taking a copy of this. I understand what it is, and the details, I'm sure, were well represented by whoever devised that thing and negotiated the contracts with the employees that are involved. I'm interested more directly in information to the general public regarding the budget. I raised this point last week, and I've spoken about it many times prior to that. I would like to see the information that council discusses when it goes page by page, item by item. And in order to do that, it seems as if you have the capability already of using the screens front and back and having the image up there so that people understand what you're talking about to a much greater degree. And it seems like a relatively easy thing to get done, I hope. Just a request for information. Thanks a lot.
Next speaker. Dr. Hoffman.
Ken Hoffman, Teaneck. Good evening. I would like an emergency proclamation to get rid of winter and snowstorms, please. So if you could get that done, that would be helpful. But more seriously, I would like council to consider continuing our environmental committee that we did with Voti Park. The EAB RVP expired December 31st, and we have a lot more work to do, particularly as we expand all along the Voti Park. So it would be nice that we continued our work formally rather than informally. Secondly, I would like council to consider asking the township manager to put together a proposal for putting in permanent bathrooms and taking a look at the canteen area for, as he had presented a few months ago. It's time to start looking forward. Doesn't mean it needs to get done, but we certainly know that things need to be done, such as the canteen renovation, storage area, the picnic area. The people can sit under covering when there is a lightning storm rather than having to be in the bandshell area. And, of course, the permanent bathrooms, it's about 1,000 square feet from what we can look at, well within budget of what we've been talking about. And it's about a 6-month process to go from beginning to end, as we know, before we can do anything. And in order to start also looking for outside funding through various governmental as well as private sources, we need to get that proposal put together, at least so we can start doing our due diligence. Finally, as I have been asked, is to continue with an update. The non-air-conditioned press box is started to be put up. There really has not been much work done because of our weather and covering. The ground is solidly frozen, so really we're probably looking at end of March, early April before any major completion work is done. Because nothing can be done until the temperature stays above 40 degrees and it's dry. Once we get a better idea of what the weatherman is going to be telling us to do for the rest of the winter and early spring, I will be keeping council and the citizens of Teaneck well informed. If you have any other questions or concerns, please let me know, but I really would ask to put the EAB RVP high up on the list of getting us continuation and renewed for at least the next year. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Dr. O'Shea.
Dr. Alex Rashin, Teaneck. Last couple of times I did ask for the council to consider moving the generator to alternative spot and just give an estimate how much will it cost. However, not to spend money twice. It's necessary, and it does not require any resolutions, that 4 of you just tell the manager to suspend any work until you have an estimate and decide whether you want to move it or not. Otherwise, it's double work just on both sides. I would like to hear a decision and to see whether you want to remove this dinosaur monster, from this spot to some much more appropriate one. Now, the other thing that was just discussed, I suggested that we have on the budget is 400,000 dollars for finishing the connection between the old police building and the municipal building. The resolution which authorizes the contractor to build it says it shouldn't be more than $3 million. $400,000 is extra, which means that the architect did not foresee it, okay, and that's his problem. So the whole project should be done within this budget. We cannot spend extra money, and basically the simplest way to do is, for example, to cut one of the levels of the connector, which is basically not functional, and this is a stupid thing. Just to go from the third floor of the police building to down, you have to go this corridor with dead end, then to take elevator, and then go back. Okay, so it doesn't make sense. So it's possible to move the elevator, for example, to police building, okay, which will remove the surface of the contact with municipal building, make it cheaper. Okay, so therefore, again, look at that. It's not something which justifies to be an extra item, okay? Should be cut off. Now, I wanted to find other things. I agree with the overtime that Ellicott suggested. I agree with freeze, but I think that it would be reasonable to give one extra worker to the Department of Public Works for two things. One, people complain that the park near which Mark Schwartz lives is dirty, okay, and you can get the drug paraphernalia there. So it's necessary that somebody is responsible for parks during summertime. The same person during winter time can clean the sidewalk at the Rhoda Center, okay, or do some other work. This means that you cut the item from the recreation department. Okay. Now the other thing is, which is a big item on the budget of the previous year, was paving, okay, and mainly paving of the parking lots and all stuff. I do not know how much it is this year because the budget is composed so that we don't see what is coming back because the county pays and what is part of the tax levy, okay? So it's necessary that we clearly see how the tax levy on the paving changes this year compared to other year. If anything, I would suggest that cut half of that, postpone until the next year. We don't have money, and we need to cut about $3.5 million, and right now I don't see more than 1.5 from all the proposals which are there. Okay, so please consider all the things, discuss it, and see what else you can cut legitimately. Because again, see and one more thing is that real test, because normally you get 50 people here, okay, who say, okay, we want some programs, say recreation or whatever it is. Okay, what about maybe hundreds of more who cannot afford it? Okay, it's the question is, I suggest do the following thing: ask for people to make a fundraiser for particular programs. The money people would donate, okay, would show how much support you have in the town. Okay, so for example, Mark Schwartz wants that, he donates money. Friends of his friends who want that will donate money. People who cannot won't. So you'll see how much support you have without any referendum or whatever it is. And this will fund the programs. Otherwise, you have to cut here and there because, again, it's easy to find 50 people to pack the room here and object against cutting something else. But I think there are probably programs which are used by small minority, and some of these people who use it have enough money, big houses and big saving accounts and all stuff. Thank you very much. I would like to hear your responses.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dr. Powers.
I had planned to actually respond more specifically to what the mayor said last week in requesting that I actually develop a website. And let me explain to you why I am considering it and why I may not actually go ahead and do that. You actually have an extraordinary website that fills in all kinds of information that you should have on your website, your official one, but you don't. I recommend election@tomabbott.net for a relatively complete analysis, for example, on issues associated with pay-to-play as it has played its way out in the life of Teaneck, particularly in relationship to the Birdsall firm, now no longer a firm because of its very bad misbehavior. There's a piece of that in Teaneck. There are a whole range of other issues. The township had a hard time figuring out how to think about website. At one point, it was willing to pay $24,000 a year for an organization that called C3, and that was an extraordinary suggestion because that's only about 7 times what it should be the normal cost of actually maintaining a website. And it turns out, of course, that C3 now becomes part of a major indictment against the former Democratic chairman of the party in the county of Bergen. I want to point out, however, that as I think about whether or not to try to fill in pieces that Tom doesn't provide, I want to go to what you folks provided to the state as a condition of your getting state aid, that talks about what it is that you actually have done in this town, because you say yes to the question of whether or not your website maintains a minimum of the following, which includes meeting dates, minutes, and agendas for the governing body, planning board, board of adjustment, and all commissions. Well, I challenge you to find on your website any information whatsoever about the planning board and the board of adjustment and most other commissions. This is not limited. Those of us on the VOTI Environmental Advisory Board, we're very concerned that we do in fact develop minutes. We never saw any of those minutes ever appear on the website. It's amazing. If you were going to be doing something extraordinary about thinking about a planning board providing you recommendations about the billboards next week, then your announcement of the fact that there's going to be such reaches a very few number of people. People who want to find out about that meeting are going to have a very difficult time. It's not on the calendar. It's not, you can't find it, and typically you can't find it there whatsoever. And indeed, this meeting, and what was actually on the agenda for it, which you now, of course, have changed, that was not available until 8 o'clock last night, and I rather imagine it was because of a request I made to a council person who actually realized it was important that be happen. People were racing all over the place last night trying to find out what it was you folks were going to do today, trying to get a hold of an agenda that was not available on their website, at least not locatable on the website. It may have been somewhere else, but not where it's supposed to be until 8 o'clock last night. That's why maybe you do need another website to fill in what it is that Tom Abbott hasn't provided, and certainly what the township is not providing with its website. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Deanne Ip. This is African History Month, if I'm correct, if that's the correct terminology. And my question is, why do we still, after 8 years since the township purchased Teaneck's historic African and Indian burial ground, we still don't have the sign installed? I've sent a half a dozen emails. The Historic Preservation Commission has tried to find out when the sign will be installed. We are always reassured it will happen, and it hasn't happened. I spoke today with a friend of mine, Laura Zucker. Laura and I are concerned. We want to know what's happening with the burial ground. You've got $27,500 of public donations that were given for the benefit of the burial ground, and it largely remains in a state of neglect. And it's been 8 years, no sign. I would like to have at least a timeline of reassurance. You know, it shouldn't take so long. The sign should be finished, it should be installed, it should be done, and then we can talk about other possible improvements. Also, last year, I think the Meadowland Conservation Trust came in with a landscaper and offered a landscape plan. and help with that plan, financial help. I would like to know the status. No one has informed me of that effort. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Joe Harris, resident of Teaneck. I haven't been here for quite a while, but I've been glued to my television watching the Christie show. And, well, I decided I ought to come here and ask you all about it. So, I'd like to know, and maybe some of you can answer, was Teaneck one of the 100 towns targeted by Governor Christie? Those towns, I assume, the mayors were approached. Well, the mayor of our town did not endorse Governor Christie. Well, so of course I wonder, was he enticed or threatened, or a combination before he decided not to endorse Governor Christie? Now, 3 council members who are apparently Democrats on our town council endorsed Governor Christie. So, of course, I'm curious. Were they enticed? Or were they threatened? Or was the town, through them, enticed or threatened? Since they endorsed Governor Christie, I assume, well, I have no way of assuming. But, of course, I wonder what the payoff was, or if there was a payoff. But I am concerned that there might have been payoffs, which show up now or in the future. And I wonder, as the vote's going on now concerning the future of our town and Route 4, among other places, I wonder, since this is prime real estate for advertisements, and big companies that advertise and make money off of these, I wonder what enticements, if any, were given and any were accepted, or threats. So, of course, I have no way of knowing, but as I've been watching television, it's certainly been on my mind. And then, of course, there's other real estate in our town, which is also either not on the market yet, or maybe on the market now and I don't know about it, and on the market in the future. So this is what goes through my mind as I watch television and see the circus. It's a terrible circus. And I look at Harrison, and I look at Jersey City, and Hoboken. That's 3 towns. We are at least as significant as any of those towns. And therefore, how does our town play in this? Nothing has come out in the Bergen record yet, and maybe nothing will. But I watch every day to see what's going to come out. And so I'm thinking about Teaneck. So we have elections coming up in our town. And I wonder whether this stuff will play out in our local town elections as well. Thank you.
Mr. Vansky.
Art Vansky, Teaneck, New Jersey. I think there's some very interesting comments at this podium already this evening. I, too, am glad to see the Deputy Mayor standing tall, and hopefully you're pain-free. No, I'm sorry. That means you're not drug-free either.
Unfortunately, it means I am.
Oh. Okay, well, my comments are mixed. It seems the theme here is due process. The real estate issue that opened the evening, the website, we just have to be better than that. You have $70 million a year to process information for the taxpayers. And I guess every town has its few holes. Let's plug those holes. You know, people get frustrated. They don't feel they're getting quality service. Speaking about quality service, with the weather we've been having, and I have to make my statement carefully, think how much nicer for the people near Garrison and Cedar Lane if we had actually installed a bus shelter at Chestnut Plaza. Every day and every night, they're waiting, they're sitting on the bench, which we're grateful for the bench, but you really missed an opportunity to provide an amenity that would have been a great benefit this winter. I don't know. I still don't understand. I've been involved in public affairs for longer than I care to say. What logic dominates the comfort of hundreds of people who want to take public transit? We have bus shelters all over the place, but why not in that place? Someone could give me an answer? I called it Mr. Big. Mr. Big hasn't called me yet. I also want to mention in terms of service, the service that our DPW is giving the town. Of course, it's their trucks I see plowing our streets day after day, night after night. And I think it's a disservice to our employees that they don't have the luxury, the necessity of a garage to maintain the millions of dollars of trucks that we have. Now, I'm not sure if there's a plan to install it, but right now, hundreds of thousands of dollars are being wasted on overtime and repairing vehicles because people have to keep the vehicles going by working on them outdoors. You could write it down, but I've spent time working with them outdoors. Cedar Lane. The town council doesn't talk about Cedar Lane very much. It's like you're ashamed of it. This is a redevelopment project. $4 million was spent. Aren't you proud of Cedar Lane? Why don't you ever talk about it? Why don't you ever? I know we have the two events there. It cost us $250,000, but you guys don't talk it up. Are you ashamed of it? Are you ashamed of the ugly bases? Are you ashamed of the dead trees? Are you ashamed of the cracked concrete? Where is the program to complete or improve the renovation of Cedar Lane streetscape? And I'm not sure. I'm going to make a symbol here because I brought you part of a lamppost base. Because it's coming apart after 7 years. You can reach down and pick it up. So I present to the council now a lamppost base components from Garrison Avenue. After 7 years, it's falling apart. It was ugly to begin with, and now it's ugly and falling apart. And dead trees after dead trees after dead trees. So please, be responsible. Use the money you have to do things right the first time. And if you don't do it right the first time, apologize to the people and do it right the second time. Or the third time. We'll do that. I wanted to know also if I'm sorry, these.
Thank you for your time.
I freeze.
Yeah. Careful. Your time doesn't start until you get to the microphone. No rush.
Clara Williams, Teaneck. I apologize if this question has been posed before, but I'd like to know who's responsible to repair the off-ramp from Route 4 going on to Teaneck Road. It's a nightmare for drivers, and I imagine with the bad weather that we've been having, it can only get worse. So I'd appreciate, again, it's a very simple question, and if it's been addressed before, again, I apologize. But please let me know who's responsible and when can we expect it to be repaired.
Most complained about it. Yeah, okay. People have been complaining about it for years.
Hello, Stuart May. Live on Sagamore Avenue in Teaneck. 25 years or so. I can't come to a meeting and not talk, so I'll make it quickly. I've probably called 3 or 4 times over the years asking to have Sagamore Avenue off of the bridge going west paved. All the streets in the neighborhood have been paved. I think one of the answers I got was that it's a county road or something. I suspect that if you pave it for 2 blocks and it reaches Art Vasky's house, that's the reason it's not being paved. It's good, huh? My bedroom windows literally happen to be on cedar. My bedroom windows, my bed and windows, we sleep against the windows, are on the cement 2 blocks. I think that it runs. I wasn't prepared to. And when you have tires going over cement roads, and you have such a busy street, and I've been told that each year the paving of the streets of Teaneck get prioritized. Well, we do have a lot of cracks in that pavement. We have a lot of rocks that come up loose out of the cracks. There's always rocks on Sagamore Avenue. And this is between Windsor and Bell and probably running on to Garrison to Art's house. So for Art's sake and my sake, can't we do 2 blocks of pavement unless there's some sort of county issue? And by the way, you could do good quality pavement where the noise would be reduced even more. One more thing I'd like to say about Cedar Lane, which the council probably has almost nothing to do with, but there are pressures to be brought to bear and influences and things. The landlords aren't proud of Cedar Lane. The storekeepers, by and large, aren't proud of Cedar Lane. There's a store with shingles on it where the shingles are falling apart, and it would take $1,000 to fix that. I know that. I've had shingles put on my house. There are stores where the wooden frames, because some still have wooden frames, they're totally unpainted. So whether I'm pleading to you or just airing my view, Cedar Lane is not an appealing, appetizing place, and appetizing, no pun intended, as far as Madame goes and stuff. It's not an appealing place to come to. I was in Inglewood the other day, and yes, they have the higher quality stores. Many of the stores are higher quality, but they also maintain their stores. They have beautiful glass fronts, and somebody should talk to. I mean, there may be an outreach program that you have, and I'll finish it up with this, that talks to landlords and talks to shopkeepers who must be under financial stress, but who talks to CVS, who does a lousy job on maintaining its parking lot by doing a superficial makeover. So here you do a whole nice thing on Cedar Lane, which, Art talks about, and they have, lousy curbs going around the parking lot, and they do a patch-up job, and they're a major shop in the area, and they probably have the cash to fix up their parking lot. So I'm saying to the council that Cedar Lane has a lot going against it because of blue laws and and shopping on Saturdays that doesn't happen and whatever, but, you know, anything would help, and doing what Art would like would help, I think, certainly, and improving the facades of the shops would help. So whatever you could do to bring to bear, we'd appreciate.
Anyone else? Mr. Sohn?
Alan Sohn, Teaneck resident. Mr. Harris spoke about Chris Christie and Bridgegate. I had posted an item on my Facebook page which had a recap from the New York Times for all those who might have been unaware that something went on in Fort Lee in September, and someone posted a reply to my page and said, well, at least Teaneck has nothing to worry about because our elected officials endorse the governor. And I pointed out that the Route 4 Bell Avenue traffic experiment has been going on for about the past 75 to 80 years unabated. And it looks like that traffic experiment will go on for another decade or two before the state determines whether or not it's going to widen Route 4. Teaneck has been systematically shortchanged in state aid. We get much less aid both to the municipality and to our schools than other surrounding municipalities do. One of Mr. Christie's vaunted accomplishments, a 2% cap, has not really helped Teaneck taxpayers. The taxes went up 5.8% last year, and my calculation is they'll go up another 5.8% this year. You know, every once in a while, my wife will ask me about a certain transaction that came through on our credit card. You know, what was that transaction for $3.89? And every once in a while, I don't know. But I can assure you that if a transaction came through on the credit card for $3,000.89, that I better have a very, very good answer of what that transaction was. On January 23rd, when this council was reviewing the capital budget, a question was asked about an item for $400,000 for municipal building asbestos abatement, security, IT cabling, and contingency. And the manager was not able to offer an answer as to what was included in that item. The mayor asked the manager to report back at the following meeting on January 30th. The question was raised by several members of the public, and no answer was offered, as the manager indicated that he was still researching what that item included. This is the fourth largest item in the capital budget. I would hope that every single item in the budget, and certainly every single item in the capital budget, has sufficient information beneath it available to justify every single number, not only for the benefit of the public, but for the benefit of the township council members who are making decisions on those items. At the January 16th meeting, I asked the question about how much the budget increase was. Was it 3.11% and $130, as the manager indicated, or 5.75% and $236? Mr. Gusson, leading the meeting, asked the manager to report back on January 23rd, and there was no answer. It's very, very easy to point to the manager, but the one person who manages the manager, the one group, is this township council. And this township council needs to set clear expectations that when it makes requests, that those requests will be fulfilled. That when a budget is prepared, that it includes the basic essential information needed to make important decisions. This is not the first time that this has occurred. We've had minutes missing for 18 months. There are still 2 managers' reports missing for 2009 and 2010. Resolution L in this evening's agenda sets aside February 11th for a closed setting meeting to discuss the manager's 2014 goals and objectives. It is critical that this township council not only set clear objectives and expectations for the township council, but that this township council holds itself responsible for overseeing the management of every penny in this $70 million budget. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Mr. Abbott.
Tom Abbott, Teaneck. At last Thursday's budget meeting, the subject of debt was discussed. And while nothing was particularly wrong, there was some things that seemed to give a misconception. When the auditor was asked was never asked what the total debt of the town was. What he was asked was how we compared to the state limits. And because of that, he gave what he called the net total debt, which was about $29 million. That leaves out two items which are not considered when dealing with the state limit, 3.5% state limit. The actual debt of the town is $35 million. The two items excluded are the judgments for about $5 million, which are still there, and the tax appeal, which is about $1.44 million. At some point, the mayor asked whether this was all a wash, the $2 million increase, and simply because it is an increase, though it was implied that it was a wash in just two items, the actual debt did go up $2.2 million. The additional debt authorized last year was about $3.8 million, right? Because some debt is paid off each year, the actual increase was just 2.2. Let's see. Sorry. It pretty much covers it. I just wanted to talk about one other issue. That was the garbage collection, bringing that in-house, with Mr. Schwartz mentioned. There are two parts of your discussion. One was that this would involve hiring people, buying trucks. One of the actual proposals that had been made from time to time over the last 10, 15 years was that instead of each house contracting its garbage separately, we would contract as a town. This would involve hiring nobody. And one of the benefits was going to be not that it would necessarily be less, but by bringing it into the tax structure, it would be deductible. So while it may still cost the same amount for each person, if you get to deduct it from your federal taxes, you come out ahead. Anyway, those were two things I noticed last week. All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Jason Castle, Teaneck. Good evening, Council. I made a mistake the last time I was up here, and I asked one question, I made a comment, and the comment was addressed, but the question was not. My question is, why do we not have in-house legal counsel? And it's not that I question the validity of our counsel or their professionalism or even their services, but in knowing that our legal bill was close to $1 million in total last year, and seeing that we have two attorneys this evening, I can only make the assumption that we're paying 2 hourly fees. If that's not the case, then great. But my question is, why don't we have in-house counsel? That's it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sorry, I missed, I guess, the discussion on that ordinance on the billboard. Naomi Kramer, sorry.
It's been tabled, Naomi.
I understand that, but it's good on welfare. And I am concerned about it. I'm concerned that enough people in this town have not been warned about this ordinance ahead of time so that there can be full disclosure and discussion among the people of the town. And I have not seen the ordinance. Is that in the packet today, that ordinance? Can somebody answer that? That packet, we'll have that ordinance today? Okay. Because I would want to be sure, I'm hoping that you don't pass it, but if you do, what guarantees can you give? And I'm as a lawyer can easily say, oh, sure. But I would want to hold that to him or her, whoever the lawyer might be, that if once we open the door to a billboard allowance, that someone is going to say, well, we want to put it here. We're there, since you already allow it. So you better be really sure that if you're going to go ahead with this, and you are promising that it's specific to only one particular area, that absolutely guaranteed you can't be sued for further opening up any other areas. So I think you really have to rethink this, and maybe one attorney's view of it might not be enough. And this whole issue, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm switching, it would be wonderful if we could put the garbage collection into the taxes. But I was sitting here more than one time when that issue came up, and people came in droves insisting that they loved their garbage man. And they did not want, you wouldn't know, but there were some of you who were around, over and over and over again, people, you can't take away my garbage can, man. I love my garbage man. And if you do this town-wide, I'm going to lose my lovely, wonderful garbage man. I am hoping that when you consider this idea again, I have a feeling that won't happen again. I have a feeling people are not as attached to their garbage person as they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. So hopefully that will be possible, that you can do that without that kind of emotion that comes across by people loving their garbage person. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no hands, close good and welfare. Okay, I'm going to start by responding to some of the residents. I think Mr. Rose brings up an interesting question, and I'd like to instruct the manager if we can have Issa take a look at for the next meeting where we're going to be discussing the budget, whether it's a special meeting or a portion of a council meeting. I believe we have the technology now, the ability to throw up a particular budget page. So when we call out, hey, we're on page 240 of the budget, if we can have Issa have the ability to throw that page up on the screen so that the public can follow along with us, I think that's an excellent suggestion, and certainly within our technical capabilities. As far as Dr. Hoffman's concerns about extending the purview of the VOTI Environmental Advisory Board beyond the time frame, that's something that I think council should certainly discuss. And if we could possibly invite the former chair of that board to our next closed session meeting, or to an shortly upcoming closed session meeting, to discuss the scope of what's left and what the new scope of that board ought to be. As far as Ms. Ip's concerns about the burial ground sign, I share them. The last time we addressed this, I shared those concerns with some almost disgust. And I'd like to put this to the manager in no uncertain terms. Where's the sign? This is getting ridiculous.
The sign is being made by Kunith Signs. I spoke with Mr. Kunith on Monday. We did have issues with the sign. The sign's very large. There's a lot of words to the sign. The sign also has symbols on it. The original symbols that we had could not be used for the actual company that will physically make the sign. They were not clean enough symbols, the format that they were in, to be produced and to be put on the sign. Mr. Kunith prepared original artwork, okay, digitized it, and that information is now with the company that will actually make the sign, and we'll have approved shortly. I spoke to him about this on Monday. I've explained to him the importance of the sign and the desire to receive the sign as soon as possible. And we're working on it. I've followed up with emails.
When's the sign going to be done?
He has not given me a date. I will try to get a date from him, but he's working on the sign, and every time Ms. Ib contacts me, I provide her with information. I speak to the sign maker, and we're trying to get this done. I mean, it's in the works.
I don't know. It seems to me that it's unacceptable. Guy turns out signs all day, every day. I understand there was an issue with the resolution on the artwork, but come on. This has been years that we've been discussing this. Forget 8 years since the property was purchased. I mean, not all of those 8 years was everyone in agreement on what ought to be in that sign and whether there ought to be a sign. So it's not fair to say that we've been waiting for 8 years, but I believe by my count we've been waiting for at least 18 months for this sign, since council had determined the artwork, the symbology, everything that was to be a part of the sign. This is ridiculous.
I don't think it's been 18 months. It was last year that we agreed on the language of the sign. It was last year.
What, was it last year?
Yeah.
12 months is equally ridiculous. So, Ms. Ip, I share your concerns, and we're anxiously waiting the arrival of the sign as well. As far as Mr. Harris's comments, obviously I can't speak for anyone else, but I can tell you that I was contacted by someone from the Christie campaign to ask for my endorsement of the governor. I let them know that I'd be thrilled to endorse Chris Christie if he would endorse me against Scott Garrett in my then partisan run as a Democrat against Scott Garrett for Congress. He said he would get back to me, and I still have not received a follow-up phone call. So I can tell you that that was my experience. There were no threats implied other than my own, asking for something in return, but I can't speak to anyone else. Obviously, Mr. Vatsky, your comment that we have wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars in overtime for DPW having to repair vehicles outdoors is one of the most ridiculous things I've heard in this chamber, and I've heard a lot of ridiculous things over the last 8 years. Our entire overtime budget for DPW is $320,000. The lion's share of that $320,000 is consumed in actual snow plowing. The time spent by the maintenance department, which is only one small portion of the DPW, in repairing all vehicles. Slice that down to the amount of maintenance of vehicles that happens on overtime is almost nil. And then overtime that happens, maintenance of vehicles in the maintenance department on the few vehicles that we own that aren't large enough for the bays that we have. Your statement is one of the most almost maliciously misleading, ridiculous things I've ever heard from the dais. I say this not being treated for pain as I should be, and I'm a little crankier than normal, so maybe that's why post-surgery. But Mr. Vatsky, come on. Really? Ms. Williams, many residents have brought up concerns, whether it's Teaneck Road and Route 4 or any of the other Route 4 on-ramps, whether it's potholes and blown tires or pedestrian issues with the ramps and access. Route 4 is a state highway. The on-ramps and off-ramps to Route 4 are state property. We don't own it. We can't fix it. It's not ours. We're not allowed to maintain it. We have ongoing issues with state DOT in terms of their maintenance of their responsibilities that run through Teaneck, and I share your concerns. If we can have the manager's office reach out to DOT and again voice this specific concern with an updated request for maintenance. Moving on along. Mr. Sones, question about backup for the $400,000 contingency. I was not at our last budget meeting as I was heavily sedated post-surgery, so I did not have the opportunity to request that information again, but I'm going to make that request again. If we can please have an itemization of the $400,000 capital budget contingency item, where it was sort of a catch-all miscellany, whether it was contingencies or asbestos removal, what have you. And then to Mr. Abbott's question about garbage collection, I think it was 2006 or 2007, Council put out an RFP for garbage collection. We looked at it several different ways. We looked at it with DPW purchasing vehicles and increasing staff, as well as putting out a contract to have the private carters that currently compete for business in town look at garbage collection. And it seemed like a no-brainer at the time. Hey, if it cost me $300 for garbage collection and I could have it rolled into my property taxes, well, gee, it's tax deductible. And so maybe 20, 30% of or more of that number would be saved by residents as it being tax deductible under your federal taxes. The problem is that it's not actually really how it works. And so, yeah, it would be deductible. There's no question about it. But if, let's say, the average home in Teaneck is assessed at $466,000, that guy would pay that equivalent amount for his garbage collection. But if you lived in a $200,000 house, you'd pay half. And if you lived in an $800,000 house, you'd pay double, because we can't charge per property fees unless we then established a garbage authority. Right? Everything goes into the pot and then redistributed based on assessed property value unless we establish a garbage authority. Garbage authority exists in some municipalities in New Jersey. We took a look at what would be involved from a bureaucratic perspective of operating a municipal garbage authority and decided that much of the types of corruption that we hear of in Hudson County comes out of these pseudo-government agencies, whether it's parking authorities or garbage authorities, private entities, pseudo-governmental entities, that we didn't want to get involved in the bureaucracy of operating a garbage authority. So we're now then back to it being a part of a general expense and general funding. And if it's part of general funding, the state does not allow us to charge per user fee. It has to be a part of a fraction of the assessed value. So again, you have someone in an inexpensive home or a little more expensive home paying half or double for the same garbage service from the same private contractor the day before, and that one guy who owns the average priced house in town paying what he was paying before, and we felt it wasn't fair to too many taxpayers who half of all Teaneck residents would end up paying more for garbage service, even if it was tax deductible. It didn't offset the downside of it. So again, at the time, it didn't make sense. Maybe it's feasible now if there's more competitiveness in the private carting business, and there is enough to offset those concerns. And then as far as Mr. Castle's question on why we do not have in-house counsel, this is the answer that goes for just about everything, every single policy decision that Teaneck makes throughout its entire history. The majority of council have not chosen to do so. And that's the answer. I personally have never voted to request in-house counsel because I don't believe that the competency of in-house counsels for municipalities the size of Teaneck that I've seen in other areas around the state, that we could have the competency in-house to do enough work for it to be cost-effective, and I believe ultimately it would cost more to have in-house counsel. More work would get farmed out, and it would cost more. That's my opinion. And so, again, not a majority of council has never decided to have in-house counsel, which is why we don't have it. We'll start on this end, Mr. Schwartz, and then if you guys can manage yourselves for just a moment as we take our time, let each council member respond, one in turn, and I'm going to take just a moment to stretch my legs.
You want me to take the gavel? If you,
I can be hit.
Actually, I can be hit. I'm not quite sure the official rules, but if I have to designate a pro tem former Mayor Katz as the only former mayor on the Thank you.
Can I still go?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I love the tax deductibility idea, but I think that did explain it all. The other thing I thought of on the garbage issue, and I appreciate all the comments we've had the last few weeks on it. I think they're healthy conversation in general. Was that call I like to make to my garbage company? I've got a bulk pickup outside. Can you come pick it up? And they tack on another 20, 30, or some formula to my account. I'm not really sure how that would go if the Teaneck did the entire garbage in-house. So I'm going to, I guess, declare the subject dead. As much as I love talking about it, I think those reasons were extremely valid. The other issue I just wanted to point out, state discussed, I don't think you expanded on it fully, the state is redoing the ramps at Teaneck Road and Route 4. It's a 5-year project. I'm just going to ask the manager if you can just talk about that when I'm done for about 30 seconds. Obviously, there's the temporary situation if you can work on, but there's a much bigger 5-term picture that they put out, a whole schedule and drawings and diagrams to really redo the entire road, something that will clear up the issue, but will definitely affect us for about a year and a half or so of the construction, which you can expand upon. And the last thing is, I guess now that he said that the council doesn't want a in-house counsel, I'm going to second that. I have my firm, which is a small firm, spends more than Teaneck on our legal fees, and we've got about 6 firms working on it specifically because we've got a litigator, we've got a collection attorney, we've got a variance attorney, and there's just so many different ways that all we're going to wind up doing is hiring a very expensive paper pusher that's going to get something and send it, get something and send it. And I probably imagine why for decades that it was done that way, and I'm fine keeping that sending it out to outside the council. I'm done.
Yeah, the Route 4 bridge over Teaneck Road. The state is looking at that bridge. It's in the design process. They're going to replace that bridge. They've come here in the past and had a couple meetings with the administration. They're discussing the ramps, how many ramps there should be, and it's in a very preliminary stage right now. It's usually about a 5-year design process. However, we're going to have, they'll be here for a meeting. We haven't scheduled a date yet, but they'll be making a presentation to the council on that issue. So watch our agendas. It'll be out there, so it's coming soon.
I have to agree with Art Vatsky. I actually am in favor of the bus shelter on Cedar Lane. I personally, though, did speak to some of the merchants that it will be affecting, and they were absolutely against the concept. I don't know if we can maybe look to move it to a little bit more to the west side, or maybe we can do it as a temporary trial. But I do think that we should look to get a bus shelter in that location. It is a very busy bus stop. As far as the garbage, I mean, Tom Abbott's right, and Naomi Kramer's right. I mean, one of the comments that I'm sure many of us hear a lot is, how come we have to pay for our own garbage? But conversely, I mean, I do remember when people were very upset that their private person was going to be affected. And I don't know if that means that we could look at several different vendors. But as the deputy mayor said, it's not so easy to set up as a system. There's I was told also you have to do a garbage. Actually, that came from we had a conversation about it a few years ago, and we were told that we had to come up with a garbage authority in order to administer this program.
One of the things that occurred to me sitting here for 2 years, it takes too damn long to get anything done. And talking about the sign on the burial ground, we also need to talk about the fence on the burial ground and talk about the landscaping on the burial ground. I don't know how you get certain things to get prioritized so that they happen. Let me raise another issue, and that is the garbage issue. It would be nice to be able to use that as a tax deduction, but I think that we would see the present garbage vendors fighting tooth and nail not to lose their livelihood. So it's not just a simple
fiat kind of a thing, it would be a major community disruption. And the last thing, rather than to run on at any length, is I invite Joe Harris to come to more meetings because he certainly asks the most interesting questions of the evening.
Actually, Dr. Pruitt, you happen to be right in terms of the garbage issue. If I remember correctly, when we proposed it, not only were a number of residents here saying, I want my garbage man, I want my garbage man, but as you said, Dr. Pruitt, there were a number of garbage companies here pretty upset about the possibility of some of them losing business in town. So, be that as it may, the other thing I wanted to talk about was, and I wanted to again thank Dr. Hoffman for his leadership on the Environmental Advisory Board at Voti Park. And I just want to echo what Deputy Mayor Gusson said, that we need to talk about getting that rolling for another period of time, whatever that period of time may be. Because we just have to see this whole thing through. The board, with Dr. Hoffman's leadership, has done a tremendous job so far, and I expect that will continue as well.
With respect to the minutes for the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Board minutes, I was under the impression that stuff was on the website. Did it change, and how do we get them on there?
I can speak with Rob.
Okay. Because I think that it's important that we have it on the minutes for our statutory boards. Can we receive a report at the next meeting? With respect to in-house legal counsel, in addition to the fact that the majority of the council has not decided that they wanted to go to legal counsel, councils of past have done cost-benefit analysis, as well as managers of past have done cost-benefit analysis, and we didn't save anything by bringing legal counsel in-house. Teaneck, as you know, is a very complex town, and at a period of time we had a lot of labor issues that required specialty. And we still have labor counsel, but it's not something that we've done, and possibly we need to look at again. But I don't think that we would ever have a point where we wouldn't have outside counsel, just because of the complexity of our town. Clara, that Route 4 ramp is the #1 complaint since I've been on council, actually. Yeah. The condition is deplorable, and every few years, I can't even say months, but every few years there's some patchwork that's done there. But I would like to ask that we send a request to our 37 legislative district to assist us in getting that ramp repaired.
All right.
There was a question about the Sagamore Road requesting pavement. No one addressed that, but possibly.
I'll put that on our list to evaluate. I already made note of it.
Great. All the way to Art Vasky's house.
In that case, the paving will start tomorrow. All right.
I also want to echo the sentiments of other council members that we do all that we can to get the signage complete. But I do know that I don't believe it's been 12 months. I think maybe 6 months, because council had some issues with the language on the sign, and I don't remember when we finally resolved those issues. I believe it's been about 6 months since we actually okayed it.
And we also, in the interim, we've gotten other signs that we've ordered from this person.
I'd be willing to bet that it's longer, but either way,
it should be a matter of public record, so we don't have to.
We are, but we have gotten other signs from this individual.
Right.
Different types of signs. Like
right.
We just got the dog park sign.
Right.
So this sign is obviously presenting more of an issue than the other signs.
Moving right along. The consent agenda. I'd like to move consent agenda raffle items 1 through 7, and the minutes.
I think we should do it later.
January 7th, open session only. The rest are being held until our next meeting. And resolutions B through W. Has W been read into the record?
No.
And if we can take a moment now to read resolution W into the record.
Yeah, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'd like to read resolution W into the record.
Okay.
A resolution reappointing Jamie Evelina, RMC, as the Township Clerk of the Township of Teaneck, whereas the Township Council, pursuant to the provisions of NJSA 4069A-89 and pursuant to NJSA 40A:9-133 at SEQ, has the authority to appoint a municipal clerk, and whereas the position of Township Clerk falls within the category of those officers and employees who are excluded from representation by the Public Employment Relations Commission and who are not eligible to receive overtime compensation or compensatory time for hours worked in excess of the normal work week, but rather are required to work such number of additional hours as required in order for them to effectively discharge the duties of their office of the position in accordance with the provisions of Appendix V as in Victor, of Chapter 2 of the Code of the Township of Teaneck. Whereas following public advertisement for applicants for the position of municipal clerk and interviews of such applicants, the Township Council appointed Jamie L. Evelina as the Township Clerk pursuant to Resolutions 38-11 on February 8, 2011 for initial 3-year term effective February 1, 2011 pursuant to NJSA 40A:9-133 and whereas NJSA 40A:9-133.7 provided that any person who shall be reappointed municipal clerk subsequent to having received the registered municipal clerk certificate pursuant to PL 1985, C. 174, and having served as a municipal clerk or performed the duties of municipal clerk for not less than 3 consecutive years immediately prior to such reappointment, shall hold office during good behavior and efficiency and compliance with the continuing education requirements set forth in NJSA 40A:9-133.10. And whereas Jamie Evelina holds a registered municipal clerk certificate issued by the Director of the Division of Local Government Services within the Department of Community Affairs of the State of New Jersey, and whereas the Township Council determines that it would be in the best interest of the citizens of Township of Teaneck to reappoint Jamie Evelina as the Township Municipal Clerk, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Teaneck, Bergen County, New Jersey, pursuant to NJSA 40A:9-133 at SEQ, that Jamie L. Evelina, RMC, is hereby reappointed to the Township Clerk as the Township Clerk of the Township of Teaneck, which shall include working any and all elections and such other additional hours beyond the normal work week as may be required to effectively discharge the duties of such office without payment of overtime, compensation, or compensatory time, and to perform such duties as may be required by law and set forth in Section 2-31 of Chapter 2 of the Code of the Township of Teaneck.
Second. Before we vote on that, I just want to ask the attorney, since that was not available for the public prior, do we need to accommodate public input on Resolution W?
Yes.
Under your rules of procedure, I would concur that the answer should be yes to that.
Is there any member of the public that would care to comment on Resolution W as just read into the record? Seeing one hand, we will delay until we hear the comments of our resident.
Two residents. Considering the fact that administratively...
I'm sorry, Howard.
Howard Rose.
I acknowledge someone else.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said one person, my hand was up.
Naomi Kramer. I have a question. I'm not sure I understand quite. Maybe I'm missing the role of the clerk. Who does the clerk report to? So the clerk does not report to the manager. The clerk is not under the manager at all. Is that it? I just want to be sure that that's the case.
No, this is not a back and forth.
But I would like to be sure that that is the case, that the clerk is completely independent and reports just to the council and gets its orders from the council for whatever there are orders for. Thank you.
Anyone else care? Dr. Powers, please.
Not having had a chance, Chuck Powers, Teaneck, not having a chance to look at this, as I understand it, at least my memory is that this is true, that what we are doing in reappointing Jamie is we are giving her tenure, and that is in fact part of the state law, that the point at which that reappointment occurs means that we have given her tenure. I just think that's something that the council needs to think about. I'm not suggesting for a moment that you not reappoint her. My only point is that did not come out in the recitation of the laws that Mr. Katz provided, and therefore neither you nor the public knew that. Thank you.
Mr. Rose.
Howard Rose, resident. To point to this appointment is actually an appointment, as I understand it, of a person who's exempt and reports directly to council. But more importantly, it's the second most rigorous job, I think, administratively in the municipality. And with that recognition, you're basing a decision on experience with an employee fulfilling that task, fulfilling it well. So I certainly hope that you affirm it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. So can we have a roll call? So is anyone who wants to pull any resolutions, or are they all going as moved?
I want to pull 2 resolutions.
Which resolutions?
The one that's number...
They're letters.
5.
Resolution F, as in Frank?
It has a number, Adam. Resolution number 5.
That's 5 here.
Resolution
Yeah.
F, right?
Yeah, but there's a number that...
That's new.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other one is 19.
And Resolution T. So if we can have a roll call on all but Resolution F.
I'd like to speak on Resolution W, so I guess we'll pull it just for discussion if that's okay.
Pull W for discussion. So we'll be pulling F, T, and W. We just pulled Resolution W for discussion. Again, I apologize if I come across as cranky tonight. I'm in great pain. Please, roll call.
Bill list, Part 1, in the amount of $10,449, $362.42. Bill list, Part 2, $6,523,869.62. Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gustin?
Yes, with an abstention on bill list items 14-00242, 243, 244, 245, and 288.
Jamie, I'd just like to correct my vote. I want to abstain from the vote on the raffles, the National Coalition of 100 Black Women's raffle.
Okay.
I'm a member of the organization.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Yes, except for... I have to, what do you call it?
Abstain.
Excuse myself from...
Abstain.
Abstain from 13-6/50.
Councilmember Katz?
Yes, with an abstention on Resolution O and also the bill list.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes. Okay. Would anyone like to move Resolution F for the purpose of discussion? So moved. Dr. Pruitt, Resolution F?
Yeah, I'd like to have, I want to move it, but I want to have Mr. Rupp talk about it a little bit, because those kinds of contracts are usually 1 year at a time, and this one is 3 years, and the question is why 3 rather than 1?
As set forth in the resolution itself, this particular type of service falls within a category which the statute specifically authorizes under 48:11-15, paragraph 6, which is insurance, including the purchase of insurance coverages, insurance consulting or administrative services, claims administrative services, and including the participation in self-insurance funds, risk management programs, and related services, may be awarded for any term of not more than 3 years. So the proposal received from D&H was a a 3-year contract. However, there is a provision in the contract permitting the cancellation thereof with or without cause during the term.
And the terms of that cancellation, it's a 90-day notification?
Right.
So at any point during the 3 years, we can get out of that contract with 90 days notification. We're not obligated to 3 years of DNH's service. Okay, roll call on Resolution F.
Yes.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gusson?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Okay. Resolution T, would someone like to move that for the purpose of discussion? Councilmember Pruitt.
Yeah, we'll move that resolution. I'd like to have Mr. Broughton explain for the public what that is exactly. Okay, this Hunterdon County Co-op, it's an organization and that has bid certain services that the township would like to take advantage of. The particular service that we're looking for is what you see in the capital budget, cabling. We're looking to use a contract vendor for a service that's already been bid by this organization to install cabling, telephone cable, computer cable inside the renovated area in the old police station. And this will allow us to take advantage of this service that's already been bid. Also, I just want to add that this isn't an item that was left out of the original contract for that building. This was intentionally not put into that contract so that the general contractor wouldn't just mark up this particular service and charge us more for a service we can go out and get done on our own. So that's one reason, and when we join this co-op, then I'll be able to get specific pricing on what it is that we need to do in that building, and I can provide that itemized pricing to the council. So this is one step in that direction of itemizing the 400,000.
Okay. And then Resolution W, Councilman.
I'll move it for the purpose of discussion.
I'm sorry, roll call on Resolution T.
Okay.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gusson?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes.
I'll move Resolution W for purpose of discussion. All right.
Discuss it?
Yeah, I didn't know. I was waiting for you to point. 2 weeks ago, Howard Rose got up to the microphone and explained the process that he went through with the OPA requests and how people should be sensitive to how much work it is and how appreciative. And I'm paraphrasing, not repeating exactly. Ordinarily, I would say that he should address the council when he speaks to his comments, but at that point I was ready to tell him to turn around and address the handsome gentleman in the blazer in the third row and address those comments to him, because he definitely is absolutely one of the heaviest users of the OPRA system, and I think he can attest how much work one has to do in order to try to compile and gather all the information that's being requested. And it is a big task. It's very easy to send an email. It's very easy to write a little note. It's very easy to put in a request. But what follows in the clerk's office and all the different departments that she has to deal with is really a great task. And that's all on Jamie. And I think we've seen, I can speak for myself, that Jamie has been very responsive. She's very dedicated to this position, and she's very passionate about this position. And I've certainly seen her grow into this position, and I wish you lots of strength. I wish you mazel tov, and I know that the residents are going to be the beneficiaries of tonight's vote.
Also, if I just briefly address Ms. Kramer's question as to who the clerk reports to, the clerk's obligations are defined by state law and in many regards answers to the law before answers to council. as far as being the secretary of council and keeper of council's documents, the clerk is the employee of council. Council does not have very many employees in our form of government. We have basically 2 employees and a bunch of lawyers. Everyone else that wears a Teaneck uniform of any color, shape, or size is an employee of the township manager, but the manager is an employee of the council, and the clerk is the employee of the council. The tenure process means that the clerk now serves with good behavior and efficiency, no longer at the will of council, and the manager is the only employee in town that serves at the will of council, which means that the manager could be let go with some contractual obligation for notice at any time, but there's a system in the state of New Jersey that protects clerks with tenure. It is not a lifetime guarantee of a job. The job still must be performed with good behavior and efficiency, and I know Jamie will live up to that, but again, the clerk is the employee of council. Dr. Pruitt?
Comment on the clerk. One of the paragraphs that Mr. Katz read was that no matter how much time she puts in, she doesn't get the additional salary. Now, that's a very important thing. And I want to point out that when we had a 4-day work week, there were many days when she was here every day. And I think she's got probably the most difficult job around, and she's putting every effort possible into making it happen. She ain't perfect, but she's wonderful.
Anyone else? Okay. If I can have a roll call on Resolution W.
Yes. Councilmember Stern?
Absolutely.
Deputy Mayor Gasson?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz?
Absolutely.
Councilmember Schwartz? Mayor, if I may, I just wanted to just publicly thank Councilor for the opportunity to continue my service with the township and all of their support throughout my 3 years. And I would like to thank the manager and our legal counsel for their wisdom and their guidance. And I would like to thank my staff and my fellow department heads for their unlimited support and municipal. Thank you.
So now that you're tenured, what do you really want to say?
Okay. Moving right along in our agenda, we're up to introduction of ordinances, and we are now preparing, it was provided for the public, Jamie?
Yeah.
We're now preparing a summary of the ordinances in sort of plain language, so that...
I didn't get it.
Yeah, it was given to us, or I have 2 of them. I don't know if did I not give you the one that was meant for you? I apologize. But in just very brief, simple language, explains what the ordinance does, and we think that this is a step forward in transparency without, a resident having to read the entire ordinance to understand what's going on, but, to give more than just a title of the ordinance as well. So this is something that we'll be moving forward, we'll be doing at every meeting going forward.
We have been doing it at my request. So
maybe this is the first time it came up on the dais during the meeting.
It's been done.
But I just wanted to call it out that we are doing this, and it's I think really a step forward.
In addition to giving it in plain language, it's supposed to also give the history of the ordinance and where it came from.
Okay. If we can introduce the ordinances.
Ordinance number 1-2014, an ordinance establishing salaries and classification of positions for municipal employees in the Township of Teaneck included within the Teaneck Police Superior Officers Association for the years 2013 and 2014. Ordinance number 2-2014, an ordinance establishing salary ranges and classification of positions for municipal employees in the Township of Teaneck included within the Teaneck Police PBA, local number 215 for the years 2013 and 2014. Ordinance number 3-2014, an ordinance amending section 36-11.12 of Division 2 of Article 2 of Chapter 36 entitled Traffic of the Township Code, adding restricted on-street parking spaces for handicapped on Beach Street and on East Cedar Lane. Ordinance number 4-2014, an ordinance amending section 36-14.1 of Division 2 of Article 2 of Chapter 36 entitled Traffic of the Township Code, adding limited 2-hour parking between 10 a.m. and 12 noon, except Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays on Elmer Place. Ordinance number 5-2014, an ordinance amending section 36-11.4, restricted commuter decal parking of Article 2, parking of Division 1, generally of Chapter 36, traffic of the Code of the Township of Teaneck, respecting the fee for commuter decal parking and overnight parking along a portion of Ward Plaza in the Township of Teaneck. Did you see the motion?
So moved.
Second. Councilman Parker?
Yes.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gustin?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt? Councilmember Katz? And Councilman Schwartz? Okay.
Okay. Moving on to old business, we're going to hold off on any additional budget discussion tonight. And we'll pick that up at our next meeting. There's still, as a result of the last several meetings, quite a few information requests that are in process and reworking of the numbers that we had asked from the CFO. So we'll hold off until our next meeting to pick up that conversation.
And I'll also have the minutes completed so you can recap about your requests.
Okay, excellent. Moving on to communications. Email communication from Russo Real Estate. Anyone care to discuss this?
Those are requested. I believe this may have been from Ellie.
Does anyone care to discuss this? No? That was discussed in closed session, but there's no public action that we're taking. Moving on to council-listed items. Councilwoman Parker, the Hyatt Fund.
Before we get to council-listed items, I just wanted to go back to committee reports.
Okay.
And council liaisons. I just wanted to report that last Thursday, on January 31st, the Youth Advisory Board held a joint youth meeting with the Boston Youth Advisory Board via Google Hangout. It was a very productive meeting. They were able to share ideas and common interests. Although Boston is a large city, they shared some of the same problems, obstacles. The youth learned a lot from this meeting, and we, the adults, charged them with coming up with ideas that could sustain our board and help it to grow based upon some of the information that we got from Boston. They extended an invitation to host us in a youth summit at some point, and shortly after the meeting, I spoke with the manager and stated that we just have to find some non-public money to do so. So I'm putting that out there that I've asked him to do this, and hopefully we'll be able to take them up on their offer at some point.
Okay, excellent. So roll right into your first
Sure. So
council-listed item?
This is a time of year when Social Service Advisory Board has exhausted, or pretty much exhausted, most of their funds. And over the last 2 years, I believe, 3 years, we have been giving them money, allocating money through the FDU money. They've made requests to tap into the principal of the Hyatt Fund, which is $250,000, and council has decided to let that principal stay whole. So I'm coming to you again to make that request.
I guess one question I have is, have they continued to ask for dipping into the principal?
Yes, every year they have.
Have you shared with the board our concern about?
I believe they came here
about concern about that practice, and
yes.
I'm concerned that they keep asking to dip into the principal, because if we went down that road, the fund disappears.
I agree.
But they don't.
I agree. Would you like to invite them to the next meeting?
No, I guess maybe you could share.
I certainly will.
Or restate council's concerns as to why we don't want to touch the principal and effectively dismantle the fund.
But can we consider allocating money from the FDU?
Yeah, I think we've done that the last 2 years now.
We have that the last couple of years.
Yeah.
We've done that.
Yeah, I think that worked out well in the past. I'd much prefer doing that than dipping into the principal of the fund.
I think the thing we need to look at is, what do we do when the FDU fund no longer exists? Because I don't believe we're still working off the same allotment that was given to us 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
Maybe the Social Service Advisory Boards could come up with some
fundraising
suggestions and fundraising.
I'll bring that back to them.
You want me to advise on what's left in the fund? or-
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
And what we've done the last couple of years.
Okay.
I think it was 10. It was
Yeah, I
5
think
for
it's
each of the
10.
funds.
Yeah, for the Hyatt Fund and the SSAB for the, I forget what the official title is. Second item is abandoned property ordinance. I received a complaint from a resident regarding this ordinance. Apparently, there's abandoned property in and around her neighborhood in the Tuxedo Square section, and she was advised by a health officer that all is required based upon our ordinance is to cover up the property with a tarp, which creates an eyesore in the neighborhood. So I'd like us to review the ordinance.
Real property or like a
It's a
vehicle?
car, it's an abandoned car. I'd like us to review the ordinance to see if that is the case and let us revisit that, because we don't want to start creating pocket eyesores throughout the township.
I think what you might want to also do is, in addition to reviewing the ordinance, to find out whether that in fact is accurate, that all they need to do is...
Yeah, well, that's-
I will call you on this.
Okay. And lastly, I received communication from the New Jersey State AFL-CIO asking for governing bodies to support a resolution opposing the Turnpike privatization. All of you know my position on privatization, at least I think Mark and maybe Gitz was not on council when I spoke very loudly and clearly about us not privatizing our public works department. So it's no secret where I stand on it. Their position basically is that it's the destruction of hundreds of middle-class jobs. It undermines the transparency and accountability of our state largest toll roads, and it's a proven fact that privatization long-term does not save money. So I have a draft resolution here that I would like for you to review and consider passing at our next meeting.
Do you have that you can distribute by email?
Jamie does.
Yeah. Okay. Councilman Schwartz, Shared Services with the Board of Ed?
Okay, last meeting I had asked for people to email me with their comments and ideas on how to cut, their suggestions for cutting and whatnot. This one was actually mine. I actually have gotten a few emails. I sent them over to the manager to first answer. If there was something merit, I would bring it to the council with my ideas. What struck me was when during the budget hearing with Fran Wilson, the Department of Public Works, as we know, we really have two separate entities in town. We have the Board of Ed, and we have the two municipal entities in town, the Board of Ed and the Township of Teaneck. And it seems like there's a lot of stuff that we are doing, that they're doing what they're doing, that we're doing. Some things I like to think we're doing better. Some things they're doing better. Some things I have no idea who's doing better. I'm obviously very proud of the work that our Department of Public Works does, and I'd like for us to request that our board, that our DPW heads sit down with their quasi counterparts at the Board of Ed and see what they have in inventory, what they have in manpower, what they have in what their descriptions are, what their contractor agreements are, how many contractors they even have, so we can see if there's anything we can do to collaboration together, because I do see the schools getting plowed very well, so they're also doing a great job, or so perhaps it's equipment we can borrow when schools are already closed to cut down on contractors or to increase contractors. Bottom line is I think there's potential for collaboration. I don't know what their CFO situations are, or their finance or their purchasing department. I'm sure they have a very big purchasing department. We have a small one, and I know that there's possible integration there, and there possibly maybe laws that we can integrate it there. But I think what I'm going to try to do over the next few months is leave no idea unturned in the sense, and see if there's anything willing to talk, so we can avoid running to DPWs, to purchasing departments, to finance administrations, et cetera, et cetera. So if there's some four willing heads, I'd like to see if the manager can set that up.
Dr. Pruitt would be a good resource for getting some information.
Well, we had a meeting set up, but we had to cancel it because of the snow. So we are rescheduling that meeting. Now, this is just recently. We were going to meet about it this week, and so I'm already in touch with Anthony D'Angelo and Fran Wilson, and we're going to sit and meet and discuss, what we can do.
Excellent. Dr. Pruitt, energy aggregation?
Yeah. Energy aggregation is a relatively new idea, but it's been around for a little while, and a lot of people in Teaneck buy their energy from different companies. And the energy aggregation concept is for the entire town to purchase their energy from one bid process. And I went to a workshop at the municipal conference, and I've talked at some length to some other folk along the way, and I want to do a little more research and sit down with the manager and perhaps collect some more information about whether or not it's a viable idea for the citizens of Teaneck. The way it works is if we buy through a particular company, then the individual homeowners will get an individual benefit from a less costly energy source. So, you know, I'm really interested in trying to find a way to help the taxpayers, and this way seems like a painless way. And one of the things that was explained to me is if a particular homeowner is no longer enamored with the idea, they can drop out and they revert back to PSE&G at no cost. So I'm going to follow this up if it's the will of the council, and see what we
Absolutely.
Okay. The other thing.
Yeah, Mr. Dr. Pruitt, one question.
Yeah.
I'm over here. One question on that. If in your research, if you could look into, assume the entire town were to decide, obviously you can't tell people where to buy their energy from, but obviously if the entire town were to be aggregated, so to speak, and you're saying if somebody decides that they change their mind and they want to drop out and go back to PSE&G, if enough people do that, how will that affect the price of the aggregated price?
What percentage participation does it have to
You
be?
follow what I'm saying? So that it's one of the things.
The purpose of research to find out what the answers are to questions like that.
Well, I think it's an important question.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing.
Community Development Advisory Board. I don't know what that board is.
Okay, here's another spike in terms of trying to find additional revenue for the township. In this document, it lists all of the properties in Teaneck that are not specifically allocated to anything. They are non-specified properties, and there's over 100 of them. And I suggest that the subcommittee, the council subcommittee, sit down with the planner and go through the list to see what the possibilities are for doing something with some of these properties. Now, if we can get that far, then I think that we need to have some public input on the recommendations that may come out of the council committee. So my proposal is for us to set up a time to sit down with the township planner and go through the property list. Some of these things may not be usable. Like there's one place on here that's 15 feet wide by 100 feet long. That's a nice place to have between you and the next door, but you can't do anything with that.
But you know, you can actually offer it to the neighbor or to the property neighbors if they want to purchase it, so it puts it on the tax.
Okay, so that's another thing.
Why don't we bring this, why don't you put this into the zoning subcommittee rather than creating a new subcommittee that...
No, the committee we have.
Right, okay.
That's the
zoning subcommittee.
The zoning subcommittee.
So the question is, do we want to allocate planner resources to the subcommittee to meet to discuss this? I think absolutely yes. Anyone else?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Okay.
So let's move forward with that. Township Manager's report.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, just before we get that, I meant to mention this. I've been getting several complaints from my neighbors and from other residents in town about mail delivery, that people aren't receiving mail timely, going days without mail, and actually I saw some posts on Facebook as well. Can we reach out to the postmaster to find out what's going on with mail?
Now, we have absolutely no control over U.S. mail.
I understand
know
that.
for the public benefit, obviously you understand.
But we can convey to them that we're receiving complaints.
I thought it was just me, but
it could be
it's been horrible.
Yeah, the last
since
3-4
December.
months.
Yeah.
Whether
It's being
a staffing
delivered.
issue or
Something's going on.
It's delivered late or not coming at all.
Days late and not at all.
I guess 3 cents raise wasn't enough.
Well, that's for sure.
And I just also, public announcement, the County of Bergen non-emergency offices will be closed tomorrow as a result of the snow, pending snow.
And recycling zone 7 will not be picked up, will be postponed tomorrow.
I got to go to work.
Yeah, the recycling zone will be picked up on Friday.
Teaneck Recycling Zone 7 will be picked up
We're
Friday.
going to pick that up on Friday. And we're still in the process of making a determination as to whether or not we will be open tomorrow, but
What's our salt status?
our salt status is we are good for tomorrow.
If we
We're
do
good
get
for
snow as expected over the weekend, are we good for that storm as well? Do we need a delivery? Are we expecting that delivery?
I mean,
What's our status for Sunday?
every snowstorm, after every snowstorm, we put in an order. Some of the snowstorms, we've put down 600 tons of salt. In the last storm, we kind of, because of the way the storm came, we reduced the salt. We only used 240 tons of salt, which means that we don't salt all the side streets. We just make sure we hit the hills well. So we're going to be trying to conserve some salt as we go forward. The county executive just had a conference call discussing this issue. This is a problem for many municipalities. Apparently, there's some issue with apportioning who gets what salt when and making sure everybody, gets a portion of the available salt. So, Teaneck, we'll be okay.
Brian? Excellent.
We make our own brine.
Delicious, that's why.
One item to report, I've appointed Faustino Garcia to the position of Registered Environmental Health Specialist Trainee with the Health Department effective January 21st, 2014. This was a retirement that occurred in December. This person was actually interviewed and given the position in 2013, but was not able to start until the 21st of this month.
Retired. Attorney's report? Motion to adjourn. Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, they don't have a big purchasing department. I think it's Anthony Jans does the purchasing.